Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. Host JP John Poz with me today. Very special guest, former ROH wrestler, current CMLL wrestler. He is Mr. Flip, Mr. Flip Gordon. Welcome in. How you doing?
Good, man. Doing great. Thanks for having me.
So what's going on in your world? What are you up to? It seems like a lot of time in Mexico.
Yeah, so I've been down here now for about a year and a half, and I'm absolutely living the dream. I always had a dream, actually, to wrestle down here and live down here ever since I was a kid. Shortly after Eddie Guerrero passed away, I got his book for a Christmas present, and I read that book and read about his time down here in CMLL. And then shortly after that, I got the Chris Jericho book and read about his time down here in CMLL. And ever since then, before I ever got into wrestling, I'd always dreamed of moving down here to wrestle for CMLL.
Wow, interesting. That's kind of obviously a different story than you hear from a lot of guys. So, but what kind of drew you to that? Like, what kind of drew you to Mexico and obviously their books to make you want to be interested in Mexico to begin with?
So I think I've always had like this weird connection with the Latino culture. My best friend growing up was from Colombia. So I'd always had like this interest to learn more about the Latino culture or the Latin culture. And I had my first taste of it in 2017 when I actually came down here to Mexico City for CMLL with the Ring of Honor partnership at the time for their anniversary show. I came down here for, I believe it was 3 weeks. And then there was this giant earthquake, and they ended up extending my stay because of the earthquake. And I think during that time, just seeing how the people came together and just seeing the culture more outside of the wrestling ring made me fall in love with the country of Mexico and the culture so much more. And then the wrestling added on top that's just a bonus. It's just here, it's the second biggest sport in the country. So people live and love wrestling here. Like you can go to any town and any place any day and you're going to see a lucha mask somewhere.
It is crazy because I went down there probably about 10 plus years ago now, but it twice on two different vacations and ended up in Mexico. And man, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, on the randomly in the street, I'm like, I'm picking this up. La Parka mask, just randomly, like,
Yep.
so I was like, I'm buying this. This is awesome.
Yeah, so I've lived down here now for about a year and a half. And last year, I wrestled more matches than I ever have in a single year in my career. I wrestled over 140 times. And here in CML, a lot of people don't know about CML in the United States, but CML has 6 shows a week, 5 days a week, every week of the year. We wrestle on Christmas. We wrestle on New Year's. We wrestle on every single holiday there is. And most of the time on holidays, we have more people in the arena than on a regular day.
That's awesome. Damn.
Yeah,
Crazy.
on average, I wrestle 2 to 3 times a week right now, and I love it.
Now, it's a lot different though as far as the wrestling, right? I mean, there's a lot of six mans, there's a lot of 2 out of 3 falls, right? So kind of explain just basically the match style down there.
Yeah, so here, Lucha Libre in CMLL is a very traditional style. It's more of the spectacular style. So when you come to Lucha CMLL, you're going to see the Lucha Libre style that's traditional, where it's the high flying, it's the spectacle of it. You're not going to get very many stories. We have stories, but that's not like the main focus. And a lot of the matches are 3-on-3, 6 mans, 2 out of 3 falls. Even when you get a singles match, most of them are 2 out of 3 falls. And so that took me a while to get used to. I think last year I might have had, trying to think, maybe 10 singles matches,
Wow,
maybe a
that's
couple
it.
more, but give or take only, yeah, about 10 singles matches. And when you have a title match, it's only 1 fall. And there's like lightning matches, which are a time limit of 10 minutes. And then the 2 out of 3 falls matches are different. Actually, because I didn't know Spanish when I moved down here. Now I've learned enough. I think I probably know about 60%. But it took me 2 to 3 months to understand why sometimes we have to pin 2 guys and to win the fall, and sometimes we only have to pin one guy to win the fall. And then I realized after a few months, I was like, I get it. If you pin the captain, you only have to pin one guy. If you don't pin the captain, you have to pin the other two guys.
Gotcha. Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
All
so a lot of
the
people don't know that. So that's something I had to learn on the fly.
Do you speak Spanish?
Now I'm not fluent, but I'm conversational. I know enough to hold a basic conversation. I know how to order food. I can go anywhere in the city by myself and get by. My wife is from Mexico. My beautiful daughter was born here in Mexico. So inside the house, we only speak English because we want our daughter to hear English so she speaks both languages, because obviously she's going to hear more Spanish than she is English. So the only time I get to practice my Spanish is outside the house. But I'm outside the house quite a bit, so I do get to practice and learn quite often.
Man, that's got to be a little bit of an adjustment, right? For you, for sure.
Oh yeah, it took me a while. It was a culture shock for sure. It took me a while to get used to it, but I've quickly fallen in love with this country and the culture, like I said before. And having my wife here has made it a little bit easier because she's from here. But there was still that adjustment period.
Did you meet her there, or did you meet her in the States and then you guys moved there?
So I actually met her here in 2017 in Arena, Mexico, after the earthquake happened.
Wow, weird. Whoa.
So she was working in the office for CMLL at the time, and she had come to me and said, "Hey, if you need anything, or if anything happens, like, I'm your contact." And then we kind of lost touch for many years, and then gotten back in touch a few years ago, and then we just started chatting, and next thing you know, butterflies.
Nice. Look at that. Interesting. She's your point of contact. You know what I mean? That's kind of interesting. A little bit of a connection there all those years ago. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, so funny thing is, I think, when was it? 2020. I ended up unfollowing everybody on Instagram and Twitter, and I ended up deleting Twitter for the longest time. And then we got in contact at a show in Tijuana in 2022, I believe. And so then I refollowed her, and she was like, "Wait, you unfollowed me?" Oh, it was bad.
Yeah, good luck explaining that. Yeah, that's not going to be fun. Yeah. She noticed, though.
Oh, yeah.
Not good. Not good that she noticed. So when you're, obviously you said culture shock, you're kind of learning the culture more, or, you're learning a little bit more fluent, you're learning Spanish. Is it hard wrestling and not knowing the language, or is wrestling an international language? Like, you can not be able to speak to the other guy, it doesn't kind of matter.
It depends on the person, I think. It depends on the style. Here, there was a little bit of an adjustment period because the style is just so different and so unique. So there was times where I'd get lost and be like, "Wait, what? What's going on?" Because I'm not like here. When a match is happening, the bad guys will beat up the good guy, and the other two good guys will just be on the outside. So it's just three guys beating up one good guy, and I'm like, "Ref, like, do something." And the ref's just like, "Come in and do something." I'm a babyface. I can't.
Right. Yeah. Wouldn't make sense technically, if you're breaking the rules.
Because as a babyface, I'm not supposed to break the rules. The bad guys can break the rules. As a good guy, I'm supposed to wait. Here, there's no tags. So here, that's the other thing I had to learn. There's no tags. So if you tag, it means nothing. And that's something I learned on the fly, live in action in Arena, Mexico. Tagged, went to get in the ring. Referee's like, "No, you can't get in the ring. He's still in the ring." So now I learned that the other person has to leave the ring before another person can enter the ring.
Well, kind of crazy that they haven't told you any of this stuff like beforehand. You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't they kind of run through the rules of what's going on?
So that's the other funny thing. They go through the rules, but I didn't understand Spanish at the time.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I'm just like, yeah, I understand. Good. We're good to go. because my whole career it's always been sink or swim. Like I started before I was ready, had my first match before I was ready. My trainer's like, no, you're wrestling this Wednesday, go. Got signed to Ring of Honor within 2 years of being on the independents. Definitely didn't feel ready. So literally it was sink or swim my whole career so far. So it was just like, yeah, I can do that. Because if I say no, they might give the opportunity to somebody else. So I was always like, yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, good to go. And then just figure it out while I'm out there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, sink or swim. You just kind of just go for it.
And so far, I've been able to stay afloat. So, I mean, not doing too bad.
Yeah. They probably were thinking like, wait, we just explained what the rules to this guy. He doesn't understand what we just said. And like, then they probably realized he probably didn't understand what we just said.
Like, there was one time I got in trouble because I was watching old footage. I like doing my homework. So I was watching some old footage, and I saw these guys get thrown into the barricade or the wall, and they went flying over. So I'm like, oh, man, that kind of looks cool. And it probably takes away some of the impact from hitting the wall. So it doesn't hurt as much. So in one match, I went over the wall twice. I got in trouble for that because you're not supposed to go in the people. Like with the people, that's why the wall's there.
Yep.
Well, they told us the rules. I said I understood, but I didn't. And then I did something I wasn't supposed to twice.
Did you get some heat for that? You get in trouble for that?
They just said, hey, not again. And I was like, they dumbed it down for me in words that I understood at the time.
Right.
And that
right.
was over a year ago. But I made sure I never forgot it.
What were you watching? What matches were you watching?
I think it was an anniversary show or some bigger show. I guess there are sometimes exceptions for bigger shows. But yeah, I was doing it on regular Friday night show or a Sunday show.
When you go back, right, are you fans of specific guys from CMLL, not just like Eddie and Jericho? I mean, like the old school Mexican guys.
So I didn't really have access to it in the United States. I didn't know how. And growing up, I was only a WWE guy. I only watched WWE until I discovered TNA in like the mid 2000s. But then I don't know what happened. I kind of lost. I don't know if we like got rid of cable or something, but I was only able to watch Raw and SmackDown. So I didn't follow much. Like I'd missed the whole WCW. I've gone back and watched stuff since, obviously. But growing up, I didn't have the access to the Lucha Libre that I wanted. I remember buying DVDs and stuff to kind of watch stuff, but I never really grew up a fan of anybody specific in CMLL.
So when you're younger and you're watching, you are an Eddie guy, you're a Jericho guy, pretty like primarily, or who do you like in wrestling as far as the be?
So my number one guy was Cena, because I started watching in 2004, and my favorite right away was Eddie Guerrero. Then he passed within like a year of me starting watching. So then Cena became my favorite. Was always a big fan of Rey Mysterio, but was always a Chris Jericho fan as well.
And what do you think about Cena now? I mean, you liking this heel turn, or you're not liking this heel turn, Cena?
It's crazy because I watch wrestling now so differently. When I watch it, I'm studying. So it's really hard for me to like sit back as a fan because I'm looking at it in so many different angles, so many different, like the way the presentation, this, that, and the other. Like the fact that he kept his same gear, same this, same that makes so much sense to me because yeah, if he would have changed everything, people would have cheered him, and that's the opposite of what they want.
That is
So
true. That is true. Yeah, and he
obviously, yeah,
basically said
everybody
that, right?
wanted him to have new stuff and new music, but if he's a bad guy, why are you going to give the fans what they want?
Yes. He kind of said that too, right? And for that first promo, I'm not going to give you what you want. You guys
Yeah.
want me to do that, yeah.
But that's wrestling 101. That's classic wrestling.
Yes.
And I think now because we have so much access to so much wrestling now, it's all online. I live in Mexico, so everything's on Netflix live. So I have access to everything on Netflix, which is mind-blowing. Because as a kid, I remember if you didn't watch it live, you missed it. You might have got a highlight the following week of what happened the week prior.
Right. Yep. Or you had to tape it, you know,
Yep.
even way back
DVR.
when. Yeah. Yep. DVR tape it. My days, VHS taping it, you know, the Monday Night Wars and all that other stuff. So yeah, it was
Yep.
definitely a different time for
But it's
sure.
cool that you get such a different flavor. I guess in wrestling, we say flavor of ice cream because there's so many wrestling companies now. There's literally so many flavors of ice cream. And even on one show, like I didn't watch Raw, but I saw highlights of Raw today. And there was the Cena Cody promo. There was blood on the show. There was tag team. So there, even just on one show, there's such different flavors of wrestling, which I thought is so cool. Because back in the day, like maybe in 2015, it was kind of getting a little boring. Because I stopped watching for a few years just because it was so boring, so mundane.
Yeah, there was a rough patch there for a couple of years where it wasn't really that entertaining. WWE's been pretty good. Are there guys you kind of like to study? Maybe John Cena, but anybody else you like kind of like to study, or you really in tune to what they're doing?
So growing up, I was a big Edge guy, big Triple H guy, Rey Mysterio, obviously. But one person that I study a lot is Paul London. I was always a big fan of him. And then Super Crazy.
Okay,
I've studied Super Crazy a lot, and I try to pick and like find things that he did that was just so different. And because he's from Mexico, a lot of stuff he did is so different compared to the style in the United States. And now I'm watching stuff from my childhood because I'm like, well, what made me fall in love with wrestling? Because if what made me as a kid fall in love with wrestling, if I kind of can recreate that, hopefully I can help other kids fall in love with wrestling.
Yeah, true. Do you see some stuff that's old that hasn't been used in a while that you're like, oh, I got to bring this back, or
Oh
something
my
like that?
gosh, yes. I was just watching a show the other day. I can't remember what match it was, but it was Mr. Kennedy. And he did this steamroller where he does like the front flip of the guy on his shoulders
Yep.
off the second rope in the corner. I do that regularly, but just on the mat. And I forgot that, oh, you can do like, it's probably kind of difficult to get into setting the guy up there and get in position, lift my shoulders. But I just saw it the other day and I was like, I kind of want to do that because I haven't seen it since. I haven't seen a guy
Right.
do that since.
And what's old is new again too, and you can kind of make it your own.
Yeah, but now that I said it on here, somebody's gonna steal it. Use it before me. Now I got to use it this
Oh,
Friday.
damn it!
Actually, I'm wrestling tomorrow night, so I have to use it tomorrow night now.
Yes, yes. Before somebody beat you to it. Yeah, that's a good idea. That is awesome though that you're doing. It's like a real student of the game. You're kind of going back and really learning, your craft, but you're adapting it to what you want to do now. That's great.
Well, I've always had the theory of like nothing is new, but then I've come up with a few new things that nobody's seen before. But what I do is I just try to combine two things that I like to make it something different. So like I do a top rope super kick where the person's in the corner and I jump up to the top rope, balance, and super kick. It's just a super kick, but the fact that I'm springboarding, balancing on one foot on the rope, and then super kicking makes it different.
Definitely. Innovative. How did you come up with that? Just something in the top of your head?
That
You
was the
thought like,
first move I ever came up with, actually. And I was a Shawn Michaels guy too. That's just my generation.
yep.
And I remember the super kick was like the biggest thing. Like you get hit with a super kick, you were done. And so I always loved springboarding too. And I've always had this thing with balance. I love like being, because I have good balance. I love being able to show off my balance. So I was like, well, what's something I can do to show off my balance, but also not just do it for it to have a purpose. I was like, well, I can do it and then strike somebody. And I was like, okay, well, what strike? And I was like, super kick? I'll try super kick. So that's something I did in my very first match. Even before I had my first match, that's something I was practicing.
Innovative too. Very innovative. You don't really see that. You never see that. It's pretty, rare. So when you're looking at stuff like that, like creating moves stuff, how would you describe your style? Like if somebody said, "Oh, what is Flip? Like who is Flip?" How would you describe your style?
Oh, that's so tough. I would say a hybrid. People say I'm a high flyer, but I don't wouldn't I do fly, but I feel like I'm not like a high flyer. But then working down here in CMLL, I kind of have to be a high flyer because we're all high flyers down here. But like when I'm in the States, I would say I'm a hybrid because I can fly, I can strike. I have an amateur wrestling background, so I can grapple. Um, for me, I love telling stories. So I feel like I'm a hybrid. I like doing it all.
Now you have amateur background. How long were you a wrestler for, and like what was your highest level of wrestling?
So I wrestled all 4 years of high school, and all 4 years of high school, our wrestling team took state.
Wow. Okay. Nice. So you have a pretty good amateur background. Never in
Yeah,
college,
yeah.
though.
Just to be on the team in 2008, you had to be decent because we were ranked eighth in the nation out of all high school teams.
Damn. Never college though, or you just
No,
had it?
I wanted to go to college, but I ended up getting a scholarship to be a mascot instead. And
Really?
I had no scholarship for wrestling. So I was like, all right, do I wrestle and pay for my own college, or do I be a mascot and get my college paid for? So I chose the mascot.
Oh my God. Wow. I never even heard of that. That's interesting. So what
Really? Yeah.
mascot were you? That's cool.
So I was the cardinal for North Idaho College.
Wow. And they give you a free ride and you're just the mascot.
It wasn't a free ride, but it was pretty generous.
That's great. Damn. I didn't even know that they did that.
Yeah, and I'm the only person to be a 4 year mascot at a 2 year college.
Hey, I know what that's like. Yeah, yeah. Not the mascot part, but being in college maybe longer than you should. Yeah. That's awesome though. I didn't even
Yeah, the
realize
the
that you
fourth
could do
year I
that.
didn't even attend college, but the sports athletic director was like, "You're gonna be the mascot again this year, right?" And I was like, "I'm not going to college." He's like, "I won't tell nobody if you don't." I was like, "All right."
Wow, look at that. Were you getting paid to do that too?
No, I just did it for fun.
Nice. Okay. Interesting.
But I looked at
Man.
it as because I knew I wanted to be a pro wrestler, and I looked at any form of entertainment would prepare me for pro wrestling. So like it was, to be honest, it was a lot like lucha libre in the fact that I was behind a mask. Nobody knew who I was. So I had the confidence to do anything and everything because nobody knew who it was. Nobody knew who the mascot was. So I could
Right.
go make fun of somebody in the stands and make fun of, you know what I mean, do silly things and do silly dances, and they just laugh because nobody knew who it was. Like for me now, not being under a mask, it took me a while to get that confidence in wrestling that I had as a mascot just to do anything and everything because I know, oh, this face, every people know who I am now. So if I do something silly, oh, he's the silly guy.
And you had your face covered, so it wasn't like it was you. It was, it was the cardinal. You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
not me doing this stuff and maybe embarrassing somebody or embarrassing myself. It's the cardinal. It's the guy
Yeah,
under the
exactly.
hood.
Like I've always loved dancing, but have you ever seen Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Will Smith does this dancing, and I guess he called it dumb dancing. I would do that as the mascot, and people would go nuts. But then when I would do it at parties or clubs or something, people would laugh at me. Not the same. It's funny when a big mascot bird does it, but when a person does it, it's like, nah, not the place, dude.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. A completely different. Well, that's really fascinating. So you knew you wanted to be a wrestler, but this was kind of a way to get the entertainment bug going, get the start, if you will, before
Yep.
you actually made the leap.
Yeah, because originally when I graduated high school, my goal was to go to Florida and like pay or apply to do FCW. And I didn't know how wrestling worked at the time. But then something told me, like, all right, just try college first. You know what I mean? So I ended up going to Idaho, did college for 2 years. Wasn't really for me. So I enlisted in the Army National Guard. Was in the Army National Guard for about 2 years before I decided, all right, I have my feet down on the ground. I have the National Guard as a great backup plan. And the National Guard opened up so many doors for me that I wouldn't know that they would open in the future for me. And so at that point, I just did an interstate transfer. I transferred from Idaho to Massachusetts. And that was another thing that was a difficult decision for me because there was 3 schools I was looking at. I was looking at Lance Storm School in Alberta, which was maybe like 4 hours from Montana. But being in the National Guard, you can't really cross international borders to live. So that was kind of a no-go there. I was looking at Booker T School down in Texas. And I looked at the Chaotic Wrestling, or what was it called? The Chaotic Training Center, or now called the, New England Pro Wrestling Academy. And because I was born in Boston, and I had a bunch of family in Boston, all my aunts, uncles, cousins, my grandma, my father lived up in Maine, and I never grew up with this side of the family. I always wanted to get to know them and learn who they were and where I come from. And so I chose there to start my training because I was able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I was able to get to know my family, learn more about my heritage, and also chase this dream called professional wrestling. So I interstate transferred with the Army, started there, finished my time there. And actually, when I was in Ring of Honor, I was still in the Army National Guard.
Wow, that's cool. Nice. Realize that. So who was your wrestling trainer? Who was like the head honcho over there?
Brian Fury.
Okay, yep. Nice. He's got a good resume for sure with the training guys in the business.
Yep, and I looked at the wrestling school and the history of it, and I didn't know the full history of it, but I knew it used to be the Chaotic Training Center, and I knew it used to be Killer Kowalski's school, and obviously Killer Kowalski trained a lot of good wrestlers.
Do you?
And so I just looked at that and I was like, well, they got a good track record. Let's see what we can make happen. And I started training, and one of my close friends when I started training was Carmelo Hayes. And I knew instantly, he was going to be a star. Instantly. There's some guys you just look at and you can just tell. And then I started when Dijak was there. Dijak obviously went and did great things. I was a little after Mercedes. But, yeah, it was crazy. Some of the talent that we had come through there at my time was crazy, some of the things that they've went and done.
Yeah, a lot of big names for sure went through that area.
Josh Briggs.
Yeah, another guy. Yep. So when you're there, are you thinking Ring of Honor? Like what is your process? Are you thinking WWE? Like what are you thinking when you're training and you're going through that school?
So initially, I didn't know how. I grew up watching WWE. I didn't know about independent wrestling. I didn't really know about Ring of Honor. So when I first moved to Massachusetts, the concept I had in my head was, all right, I'm going to train for about a year. I'm going to pay for a WWE tryout. Then I'm going to go to WWE. That's how I thought it worked. Nah, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So after 6 months of training, within that 6 months, I learned about independent wrestling because they were partnered with Chaotic Wrestling. So we'd set up the ring. A lot of the guys from the school would wrestle on those shows. Through meeting those people, they tell you, hey, go to this company and help set up their ring. Go to this company, help set up that ring, because that's how you get your face in front of people. Hey, look, I'm trained to be a pro wrestler. So that way when you're ready to have a match, they'll start booking you. So that's what I did. I went to every local pro wrestling company in like a 2-3 hour radius. For 6 months, I showed up. I helped set up the ring. And after I had my very first match, it kind of just, the dominoes started falling. I had a match almost every weekend. And then wrestled on the independents for about 2 years. And then that's when I made the decision to go to Ring of Honor. But it wasn't just Ring of Honor at the time. I had an offer from Impact, and I had an offer from WWE for a tryout. Not an offer, but an offer for a tryout. And this was after I did the Ring of Honor tryout. And so because I had already done it with them, and I had friends like Matt Taven and Mike Bennett were in Ring of Honor at the time. And I actually ended up asking Cody Rhodes, because he had worked for all 3 companies, and he was with Ring of Honor at the time, but he had done a short stint with Impact. And I kind of just asked him, I said, hey, man, sorry to bother you, but I have these 3 offers essentially in front of me, and I don't want to make the wrong decision. And he's like, well, I don't want to tell you what to do. He's like, but I can give you my experiences with all 3. And he just, in one text, he put the pros and cons of each. And over looking at it and just following my heart, I chose Ring of Honor. Ended up being one of the best decisions because through that opportunity, I met the Young Bucks. I was on Being the Elite, which really helped boost my career, I believe. And Ring of Honor was one of the best learning experiences I could have had.
Man, it's great of Cody. I mean, he really kind of really laid it out for you. He could have just told you, F off, or like, nah, figure it
Oh,
out.
absolutely.
Pretty great.
Oh, yeah. And this was before he hated me on Being the Elite and our little rivalry. But
Yes.
no, like me and him. So like when he first left WWE, we were on the road together for a little bit, which is funny because it kind of mirrors his story with John Cena.
Yes.
And because we were all on the same shows, and there was a lot of shows where it had to be drove the next day instead of a flight. And he would travel with me in my car, and we would just talk and talk and talk. So I felt like I had the comfortability and maybe not the respect, but I felt like shoot the shot and see if he'd respond. And so I just texted him, was like, hey man, could you help me? Not help me, but could you like help break this down for me? And he was very kind, took the time out of his day, and he literally broke down the pros and the cons for all 3 companies. And he didn't tell me pick this one. No, he just said, here's the pros and the cons. You choose, man.
That's an awesome kind of like person to go to. Somebody with so much experience. Obviously, he's been through the ring with all 3, so he would know. That's like just a great thing to kind of have and be able to, shoot a text and he give you a great response like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he could have completely ignored me and I would have understood.
Right. Yep. So obviously you said being the elite, you kind of got super popular from that. How did that even like kind of come to fruition? How did they kind of ask you to be on, and they're going to film you and you're going to be on that show, kind of, making a name for yourself?
To be honest, I have no idea. All I remember is I hadn't told anybody I signed with Ring of Honor. And me and the Young Bucks were on a show in Tijuana, Mexico. Something about Mexico, man.
Yeah.
But they were like, hey man, can we shoot a short bit for our YouTube show? And I didn't even know what Being the Elite was at the time. And I was like, yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll help you. And then they did the whole welcome to Ring of Honor, and it just took off from there. So like at that moment, I never imagined it would turn into what it turned into.
It got to be an interesting experience because I don't like you're the rookie on the scene and you kind of don't know what they're doing, right? You're like, what are we filming here? What are we doing? Like,
So
what
to
are
be
we?
honest, like, so I showed up the first weekend, and I believe it was somewhere in Illinois, and then I want to say St. Louis. And then immediately they're like, hey man, can we shoot another thing? And I was like, yeah, of course. And so we shot the next one and the next one, and then it just went on every weekend. And at one point, I do remember being like, all right, they're just messing with me, right? Like, this is just one big, long, harmful rib. Like, this
Right.
is just to, like, I grew up in sports. I remember getting hazed. I remember getting, you know what I mean, initiated. So I was
Yep.
like, all right, where's the punchline? Where's the punchline? And it just never came. Like, they kept putting me on every week, every week. And because of it, I kept getting reactions everywhere I went. I remember going to Ireland for the first time, and people would come up to me, where do you think you're going? And it was crazy. Welcome to Ring of Honor. It's I guess they say sometimes the best things happen on accident. And I don't know if that was an accident, but it was one of the best things.
Did you get along with those guys, or did you still think they were maybe messing with you as you still are, progressing in all the filming and all the being the elite episodes?
No, we all got along great. Like, we got along really well. And initially, again, me being the new guy, them being the top guys in the company, like, I didn't know what was going on or why it was going on or where I'm supposed to sit. I don't know if I'm supposed to be in their locker room, the locker room with everyone else. Like, do I sit with them? Do I not want to, like, because in my mind, I'm like, well, this is great. I don't want to overstay my welcome. I don't want to annoy them or like, I don't want and then again, on the flip side, I don't want the rest of the locker room to like be mad at me or give me heat because I'm coming in and immediately hanging out with the top guys. And so it was a tough spot for me, to be honest. And I think I handled it for the most part pretty well. But I remember there was many times where I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I'm not going to say no.
Right. Right. Yeah, you kind of can't, right? If the top guys want you to be part of their thing, you kind of can't. You shouldn't.
Yeah. And it was so much fun. I just showed up, and luckily I'm not the most creative guy. But I would just show up and they'd have all these ideas. And I'm like, yeah, of course. I can, yeah, whatever you guys need. And I like acting. So for me, it was being able to play a character. And they would give me ideas, but they didn't give me lines. It was all ad lib. It was all just say what comes to your head.
Did you catch any heat from the other guys, as far as you know?
I think initially I might have. But then I think over time, no. Because once the Young Bucks and Cody and Hangman all left, like I was cool with everybody and I had no problems. And that was part of the time where I was a little scared. I was like, uh-oh, here it comes.
You're right. You're kind of left by yourself almost, like on an island.
Yep.
Like you could have been, ostracized, but you weren't, I guess you're saying, right?
No, I mean, I like to think that I'm a pretty nice person and I'm kind to everybody. I treat everybody the way I want to be treated. And I think because I take that approach, like everybody was very kind with me and like wanted to see me succeed, or at least they said they wanted to.
Right. So did you think when you're in Ring of Honor at that point, did you think that there was ever going to like be AEW? Like, what were you thinking? Were you thinking Ring of Honor gung ho, or what was your kind of mindset at that point?
So I had re-signed a contract. So I was there an extra 2 years after the Elite left. And I knew what they were doing. They obviously smartened me up. And they're like, hey, man, we're leaving. We're starting a new company. And I was like, oh, I've got 2 years left. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so from that moment, and they were all telling me like, all right, well, no worries. Like, become a bigger star here, and there will be a place for you after. So in 2020, when the pandemic happened, it was my contract year. They ended up offering me a very, very generous offer, Ring of Honor did. And I wanted to leave. I wanted to go to AEW. I wanted to go to WWE. I thought that at that point, I was like, I feel like I'm ready. It's now or never. But the amount of money that Ring of Honor offered me in a pandemic where everybody else is losing their jobs, they're getting laid off, it was just too good to be true. And I was like, I got to take the money. I got to take the money. So I ended up re-signing with Ring of Honor for another 4 years. And then after 2 years, they went out of business. Well, they told us they were basically going out of business and then sold to Tony.
So what happens to that contract? The remaining 2 years of that deal? Is it just hanging out like there? You still get paid?
No, so they basically paid me until April. When did they go out of business? 2022.
Yep.
So they told us December, I believe, 2022. My contract was for another 2 years. They paid me until April 2023. I received my last check April 2023.
Oh, interesting how that works. So it's just almost voided. Like the rest of the contract is almost voided.
Or maybe it was 20? It was either 21 or 22. I can't remember when they went out of business.
Right.
Trying to think. If it was 2020 when I resigned, 2021 would have been year 1. 2022 would have been year 2. So I think they told us end of the year 2021 they were going out of business. And then my contract went until April 2022. So that gave me 3 months where I could have looked for another job where I could have did whatever. And I was just kind of, this is where I learned the hard way. I was sitting at home waiting for someone to call me instead of making
Right.
the jumps. A lot of the other guys were calling and saying, no, just get me out of my contract now. I'll go somewhere else. But for the amount of money I was making, I was like, well, they're going to pay me this for another 3 months. I'm just going to sit at home, maybe do a couple of indies, and then somebody's going to call me, right? Sometimes that's not how life works.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. True. Sad but true. Yeah. So it's one of those things I always was like curious of because it's like your boys with the Bucks, AEW. So the contract kind of held you up, but how come you never really have anything blossom with AEW since? Like, how come you have never been in AEW?
I have no idea, to be honest. I don't know if it's because I said no and stayed with Ring of Honor. I don't know if it was because of the bad gimmick I did towards my tail end of Ring of Honor. I don't know if it's just wrong time, wrong place. I don't know. But had I gone there, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. So everything happens for a reason. And because at the end of 2023 is when I decided to come down here to Mexico. And to be honest, it was a blessing. It's something that is more than I ever dreamed of. And I've grown more in the last year and a half than I felt like I did the 3 years prior as a performer and as a person. As a performer, I'm wrestling more than I've ever wrestled in my life. So I'm in front of a crowd 3 to 4 times a week, which allows me to listen and react. Whereas with Ring of Honor, it was 1 weekend a month.
Hard to really get better, if you will, if you're only wrestling once a month rather than 3 or 4 times a week.
Correct, because we were on exclusive contracts, which means we couldn't do independence.
Whoa, I didn't realize that. Okay, because yeah, I was always kind of curious how come those guys never really did other shows besides Ring of Honor at that point. So you just physically, or technically, you're not even allowed to do other shows at that point.
No, that last contract and the contract I had before, only my first year in Ring of Honor I was allowed to do independence. The other 4 years, I couldn't do, I was exclusive. So I wasn't
Did you
allowed to do independence.
did you not like that though? If you're like looking back, like, oh man, wish I could have worked more.
Oh, 100%. But it's a learning lesson because at the same time, you want guaranteed money in case you get hurt.
Yeah, pros and cons, big time. But with that, and then obviously they were good enough to pay you guys during the pandemic, which is crazy, and give you guys. So I mean, they were a good company, especially to the
Oh,
wrestlers,
they
to the
were a
boys.
great company, and I'll never say anything bad about Ring of Honor. I had such a great time there, and I learned so much there.
Do you still talk to the Bucks? So you guys still friendly?
I actually just talked to Matt Jackson today, believe it or not.
Wow, look at that!
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I
So
mean, we
you
don't
guys,
talk as much as we used to, but we definitely still keep in touch.
when you think about it, right? AEW's been working a lot with CMLL, right? You know what I mean? Like there could be a connection for you in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I would love nothing more than for an opportunity to showcase myself on a big stage in the United States. And I would love it even more to represent CMLL while I do so. Because I love living in Mexico, and I honestly don't see myself moving back to the United States. I love it here that much. I love being able to raise my family here, near my wife's family. I love the culture that is here, much better than the United States. Sounds bad, but the family is much closer here, which I really want to instill in my daughter.
So you're really loving the lucha libre style. You know what I mean? Like as far as in ring, you really have adapted well, and you love that high flying style. I know you said more of a hybrid, but you love the high flying style.
Oh, I really, yeah, because I mean, it's growing up, those were the guys that I liked watching. So now I get to be just like them. And here, the ring is bigger. So in Ring of Honor, it was an 18 by 18 ring. Here, it's a 20 by 20 ring.
Oh, I didn't realize 20 by 20. Oh, that's a big ring.
Yep, 20 by 20. And we're wrestling in front of thousands and thousands. Like, I don't think a lot of people understand. For a company that runs 5 days a week, 6 shows a week, and I mean, 3 of the shows are in Arena Mexico, which is Sundays, Tuesdays, and Fridays. On a Tuesday, give or take, there's 4,000 to 6,000 people every Tuesday. On a Friday,
good.
Anywhere from 8,000 to 16,000 people.
Wow, damn.
Every Friday.
Is that Arena Mexico?
That's Arena Mexico.
Wow, nice.
And then Arena 𝐶𝐒, which is on Saturdays, I believe can hold up to like 7,000 people. And there's 2,000 to 4,000 people there every Saturday at least. And then we have 2 other arenas in 2 other states. One's in Puebla and one's in Guadalajara.
And it's just those are all the places you run. There's no like tours or anything where you guys run elsewhere.
Nope. We get to do independent shows, but it has to be booked through the CMLL office.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they'll book us out essentially. Like I just did a
Right.
show in Querétaro, which is just north of us. And they booked me out and they put it on my schedule. So I have to get my schedule every Monday, and that tells me what shows I'm on for the week.
Like that. Yeah, that's good. I like that. And it seems like wrestling in Mexico is hot again. Not that it like really, cooled off tremendously, but it definitely seems hot again down there.
I mean, it feels hot. I mean, I've only been here and a half, and so I don't know what it was like before I showed up, and hopefully it stays hot while I'm here.
What's the difference? I know maybe a dumb question, but what's the difference CMLL and AAA? Is AAA more like storyline? You guys are more the wrestling? Like, what's the difference between the two companies?
I would say, just because I've wrestled for both, I would say that AAA is more of an indie style, whereas CMLL is more of a lucha libre traditional style. So if you want to see like traditional lucha libre, you're going to see CMLL. If you want to go see independent wrestling, you're going to go to AAA. Not saying that they're an independent company, but that's the style that they have.
Right, gotcha. Who's some of like the big names? I know Mystico, obviously, we've seen him. He's amazing. God, he's been good for years. Obviously, when he goes to WWE, he gets hurt, and people might have the wrong idea, but he was awesome, regardless of all that stuff. Hechicero is great. Who are like some of the really good talent at CMLL?
So Mystico, Hechicero, Valador Jr., Máscara Dorada, Último Guerrero, Soberano Jr., Neon. He's a young guy, but he's gonna be a future star for sure. Trying to think, there's a lot. Our roster, it's funny because I see people making fun of AEW and WWE for having too many guys, but our roster probably has over 200 people in total.
Holy moly, jeez, yeah, that's like WWE.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys. Like Niebla Roja, Ángel de Oro, Chávez Hermanos, 𝐾 There's so many guys.
Who's like your favorite guy to work, or a couple favorite guys to work?
That's tough. Definitely Ángel de Oro. He's one of my favorites to work with. Templario is another star. He's freaking phenomenal. He's really fun to work with. Trying to think. Rocky Romero. He comes down here a lot. I had a really good match with Rocky Romero. I had another really good match with Villano Tercero Jr.
So, speaking of Rocky and thinking about Rocky, is he the reason you got booked down there? Was he like kind of office, and he's bringing the 𝐔𝐁 or he's bringing the American talent down, or how did you get booked there?
So how I got booked here was because I was here in 2017, and the fans took a really good liking to me back then. So I was living in Connecticut. Me and my wife were living in Connecticut at the time, and we found out that she was pregnant. And so that was decision time. And I was having so much fun on the independents at the time, but all good things have to come to an end. And so once she got pregnant, we made the decision, all right, we're going to move to Mexico. So I literally sold everything I owned, everything. But before that happened, we came down here for like a little vacation, like a week or so. And in that week, I had a meeting with the office, the owner, the actual owner of CMLL. And
Okay.
basically it was, I want to come back. I want to wrestle for you. I want to be here full time. I'm going to live here. Because I had asked many times to come in the past, but they were like, we can't fly you every week. We can't fly you every month. Like, it's easier if you live here. And at the time, I wasn't in a position to live here, and I understood their reasoning. So now that I was going to live here, I was like, this is my shot. This is my chance. And so I had a meeting with the owner and a few other people from the office. And after the meeting, believe it or not, it was actually on the anniversary of the earthquake. Because after the meeting, we had to go outside for the alarm for the earthquake and the remembrance of it. And they said, yeah, they're like, we want to have you back. When can you start? And I gave them a date. And I think the date was, when was this? This was in September. And I came in November. So it was like a month and a half. So they said, yeah, we want you. We're going to debut. I believe it was November 17th. That's the date that stands out in my mind right now. And so we started planning it. And then I was like, I got to sell everything I own. I was like, I mean, not everything. I put a lot of stuff in storage, but I didn't want to have to put too much stuff in storage. So I sold all my furniture, got rid of my car, you know what I mean? All the big bulky things.
Yeah.
And then it was like, all right, now I need a gimmick. So my wife, she's very creative. It was her idea to do kind of like the G.I. Joe gimmick. So I was like, well, the gear makers here in the United States are very flaky sometimes. It's hard to get gear. Sometimes it could be late, not in the right size. And she was like, why don't you just use your military uniform? And I'm like, it's a good idea. And I was like, all right. And I was like, it's free too. I already have it.
Right. Yeah, you don't have to pay for it.
So then I had the costume. Then it was, all right, well, how am I going to announce this? Because I wanted to do like an announce video. I'm leaving the United States. I'm taking my talent south. Like, and then I remembered the LeBron James when he left Cleveland to go to Miami. And I was like, what if I do like a combination of a college game or a college, you know, when like the students pick the hats for the college of where they're going to go play?
Yep.
I was like, what if I combine that with the line, I'm taking my talent south of the border? So then we came up with that whole press. I don't know if you saw it, but we came up with this whole press conference idea where I had all these hats. I had the WWE hat, had the AEW hat, and I believe I had the NWA hat, but it was not the NWA hat. It was the rap group NWA hat. And that was like my way of not mocking the NWA, but kind of mocking the NWA. Because obviously I knew it wasn't the real NWA hat. I've worked for the NWA. But a lot of people didn't get that joke. A lot of people were like, you got the wrong hat. Yeah, it's part of the
Really?
joke.
They missed that. Yeah. Oh my God. Come on, people. Come on.
But again, not everybody has my sense of humor, and I forget that, which has gotten me in trouble in the past. So I had the NWA hat. I can't remember if there was another hat or if I stopped. No, I think it was just those three because I tried to get a TNA hat, and I don't think I could. I don't think it arrived on time. And then so I do this whole speech for just those three hats. Then I pull out the CML hat and I put it on. And I filmed that, and then I went on. Here we have CML Informa, which is like our press every week on Wednesdays for CMLL to put out like what matches are about to happen, interviews, and all the like important information goes on CML Informa. So I had this video filmed, edited professionally, paid good money for it because I like quality. And I told my wife, I was like, soon as I make my entrance on this show, because it was live at the time, I was like, post this video. I was like, I need to get the views, not them.
Yes.
So
yes.
Sure enough, soon as they say my name, she pushed post. And it was something that went viral for me, and I was very happy because I put a lot of work and thought into that video. And I still, people ask me today, like, how did you come up with that? That was genius. And I was like, sometimes I have good ideas.
Yeah, it's a great idea. It's got a combination of a couple of really good ideas too.
So that's how I got into CMLL. It wasn't through any person's connection or anything other than me reaching out saying, hey, I loved working for you guys in 2017. I've always dreamed of working for you guys full time. I would love to have a meeting with you to see if this is something that would work for both of us. I got that meeting. It went very, very well. And I debuted less than 2 months later, and I've been here ever since. And I love it.
Nice. And it's funny with the NWA, you've had some NWA title matches against Nick Aldis. So, it's not out of the realm. I know it's obviously the wrong NWA, but the real NWA, I'm talking about, you had some title matches against Nick.
Yeah, people thought I was going to go wrestle 𝐈𝐒𝐾. It was wild.
Yeah, weird. But I guess Billy Corgan, NWA, you never had like a deal with them per se, right? Or was that through Ring of Honor that you had those matches?
So initially it was through Ring of Honor. And then I did one, not tour, but I did like one weekend of TV tapings with them. What was it, 2019 or 2020? Or maybe it could have, I'm bad with years. It all mixes together. Maybe it was after Ring of Honor went out of business or after I was released. I can't really remember. But I did one TV taping with them and then tried to work something out. We just couldn't agree on certain things. And so I was like, okay, no worries. Not every company is going to be a fit. That's,
True.
I think, something that people got to learn. And you don't want to just work anywhere. You want to work somewhere that's going to work for you and work for them, where it's going to be a healthy relationship.
Definitely. And it's so interesting with like the way it worked out with not working for AEW. I think after All In, when the Battle Royal, fighting Lethal for the title, Brandy, that whole situation, it felt like, oh, this guy's all elite. He's got it written all over. But like you said, sometimes it doesn't work out, and different scenarios happen behind the scenes that the fans don't have any idea what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I was the last one All In, if you remember. And I was the first one All Out. So I'm still all out, apparently.
Yes. Yeah, it's just interesting, like the way that all goes down, because it's like, oh, he'll definitely be AEW with all these guys because of what happened at All In. But obviously, that's kind of a Ring of Honor produced pay-per-view, really. And Tony really only got, the footage when he bought it.
Yeah. But I mean, I won the first ever. Technically, now that he owns it, it was an AEW pay-per-view considerably, right? So
Yes.
technically, I won the first ever AEW match.
It's a good point. Yeah, technically speaking, yeah. And maybe, technically, I mean, it was for the Ring of Honor title, but it was technically an AEW match. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about the Battle Royal.
Oh, the Battle Royal, right? True. Yep. For the right to get a shot at the Ring of Honor title. Yeah, you're right. Technically, you won the Battle Royal,
which was the first match, if I remember correctly.
Yep. And there's nothing Bully Ray could do about that. You know what I mean? He won it fair and square. That's he could do about it.
That was a fun rivalry, by the way. I know a lot of people said it dragged on, it went forever, but I learned so much in that feud. And it was one I was very proud of. I thought I did some very good work. And I thought it allowed me to show different dimensions to my character, not just be a flippy guy, but be able to show some grit, some character. And so I really enjoyed that feud.
And I feel like, too, he works a certain style. You could say it's snug or whatever. Like, he works a certain style where the underdog or, the baby face or the smaller guy, it's perfect. Like, you kind of were like the guy fighting from underneath, like that Ricky Morton type, or, that young baby face where he's got so much sympathy because this big monster looks like he's killing the guy. You know what I mean? He looks like he's killing you most of the time.
Nah, he was very professional. He took very good care of me, and I learned a lot from him.
So as we hit the wind down here and head towards the finish, what is next for you? Obviously, CMLL is the foreseeable future, right, under contract.
Yeah, so right now, I am the world middleweight historical champion here in CMLL. I almost said NWA because it technically says NWA on it.
Right, on the belt itself, yeah.
Yeah. I just got announced for the CMLL Universal Championship Tournament. So I'm the first initial announced participant announced for that, which is an annual tournament of all the CMLL champions. They go to battle to see who's the champion of the champions. So I'm excited for that. And I'm actually making my return to the United States for the first time in over a year at WrestleMania weekend, April 17th, for the 𝐷𝐿Con Super Show.
Nice. So you're looking forward to being back in the States?
Yes. Yeah, I'll be there for, I believe, 2 days, maybe a day and a half. I'm just coming in for just that one show. 𝐷𝐿Con, they were very good to me in the past, and so I'm very excited to work for them again and to put on a super show for them.
Nice. Where can everybody find you and follow you as far as social media?
So I have Instagram at @TheFlipGordon. I have Twitter at @TheFlipGordon. I don't really use my Twitter. I just kind of retweet and like whatever Ring of Honor, whatever CMLL puts out. What else do I have? I think that's it. Oh, I have a Facebook page, but I believe that's just connected to my Instagram. But that's at @TheFlipGordon too, I believe.
All right. Awesome stuff, Flip. Great having you on. Thank you so much for all the time.
No, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. This is my first interview in English in almost 2 years.
Wow, I didn't
And
realize
my
that.
first
Oh my God.
interview in like maybe 2 or 3 years outside of Mexico.
Wow, I didn't realize that. That's all.
Yeah.
Thank you. That appreciate that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Any reason for that, or you just didn't really want to do many of them?
I kind of didn't want the spotlight for a while because when I first started, or not when I first started, but towards the tail end of my Ring of Honor contract, I did some things on social media and character-wise that I was experimenting with, and a part of it was because of my immaturity and not looking at the whole picture of what was happening in the world. And so because of that, and I think because I probably wasn't ready for the spotlight that I was given so early, it kind of just made me scared of talking and scared of being in the spotlight. So I kind of just took a break and wanted to kind of just not hide, but kind of just wrestle without having to do interviews or be questioned, or you know what I mean? Just let my wrestling speak for myself. And now, being a father, being a husband, being in my mid to 30s, I think I'm more mature. I'm more able to handle the situations. And I think I'm able to look at the world in a different way than I was when I was younger.
You've matured over the years.
Yes.
Nice. That's good to see. You mean like the conspiracy theory stuff and all that other stuff that was out there?
Because for me, like the way I looked at it, and now like I look at the whole picture and how everybody else saw it. But from my perspective, it was because I started a conspiracy gimmick before COVID happened. So I just looked at, oh, I'm already doing this gimmick. Oh, I could use COVID to help me. I didn't think about people are really dying from this. People are going to be sensitive about this. Right. I just looked at it as I can make people believe this gimmick is real. Wrong time, wrong place. And it was just one of those things is I didn't watch much TV growing up. So I got a kick out of conspiracy theories. And when people would tell me, I'm like, well, that's fun to theorize. That's fun to theorize. And I don't believe half the stuff I was saying, but it was funny to me. And that's why I said, I forget people don't have the same sense of humor as me. But when there's something happening in the world, it's probably not a good idea to try to make a joke about it. And that's where I made a big mistake. But I learned from it the hard way.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah. So, obviously some people may take that to heart, or they don't realize, or even if it's a gimmick, like, you know what I mean? People will still be upset that you're doing a gimmick about that stuff too. So
correct.
Yeah.
But for me, like once the Elite left, I didn't have a gimmick anymore. I was the guy that was on the Elite. And then I did the mercenary gimmick. And that was fun for a while, but I felt like there's only so much length you can have with that. And then obviously once the thing happened with Marty, I was like, now what do I do? So I was just trying to think outside the box with all these, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And what I should have did was just stick to one thing, maybe not just a whole broad thing of conspiracy theories, which is what I was doing before I came to Mexico. I was just doing a gimmick about the flat earth.
Yeah, I
Because
remember that.
it's silly, it's fun. But to me, it was, I can talk about it because I've read enough information about it to make you think that I am a flat earther. It's kid friendly. I had a championship belt made of the Flat Earth Championship, and I'd come out and claim I'm a Flat Earth champion.
That's right.
I would say, like, there's something I need to get off my chest before this match. You see, we've all been lied to. The earth is flat. And then there'd be one kid in the front row. No, you're stupid. No, it's not. Got this one kid now. The whole match, he's going to – now if I go to him, he reacts, everybody else is going to react around him.
Yes.
So for me, if I could go back in time, I would have just did the flat earth gimmick because I think that was funny and silly, but I could still wrestle competitive. Because my idea was I want to be entertaining and funny without being a comedy act.
Right. Yep.
Have you ever seen, what's that show? Blue Mountain State?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Where the quarterback, he's the captain of the team, but he's so silly and dumb. But part of my BTE character was that I was silly and dumb. So I was trying to evolve that character in a way.
Yeah. Yep.
But I went too deep by basically force fires are fake. This is fake. That's fake. Election, blah. I was just throwing everything at the wall, hoping it would stick. And I should have just chose one thing instead of being like, I'm a conspiracy theorist. Well, that opens so many doors that you don't want to open. Because now people are going to, oh, he must believe this then, and this, and this, and this. And I remember the one thing when I initially, if you remember the build up to All In, I did a flat earth gimmick with a reporter it was some press conference for All In. And immediately when people started giving me heat for it online, he's a flat earther, he's a flat earther. I came clean, was like, no, I'm not a flat earther. It's just a gimmick. And Bubba, he actually yelled at me for it. He's like, in a time when it's so hard to make people believe that you are what you say you are, why would you say you're not?
Right. Yeah. Good psychology. Yeah.
And I was like, ah. So then I kind of kept that in my back pocket, and I kept seeing people tag me in the flat earth stuff. And I'm like, some people still believe I'm a flat earther. So that's why after all the conspiracy stuff kind of hit me hard in the face, that it was a huge learning lesson again, because I wasn't looking from other people's eyes. I was only looking from my eyes. And as entertainers, it is our job, especially being on TV, we have to think of everybody because there's little kids that watch this. And they're going to copy what we say. They're going to copy what we do. And I wasn't thinking about that. Now I think about that. So therefore, when I brought the flat earth gimmick back, I was thinking of what Bully told me. I was like, if I can make them believe that I believe what I'm saying, I'm winning. But that gimmick would not have worked here in Mexico, so I had to abandon it.
They don't care about flat earth in Mexico?
I just don't think it would translate down here. If they think you're dumb here, they'll never support you. Comedy wrestling doesn't really work here.
Gotcha. Interesting. Conspiracy theories don't work down there really either? Like they're not into that?
I don't think so, no.
That's like a United States type thing, right? Basically just really the states, they love to eat that stuff up.
Yeah, I believe so. Because I think everybody just wants an excuse to be like, well, it's that and that the reason I'm here. No. You got to work hard and get there. There's no secret society that's holding you down. I'm sorry.
Yeah, keep working, right? Yeah, there's no Illuminati. You got to just keep working.
Keep working. Just put the right foot in front of the left. Keep going. Keep working hard. And invest right. Save your money. Don't buy things you don't need. And life will be okay.
Yeah, maybe that Illuminati stuff might be an excuse of like, oh, I'm being held down because I'm not, part of the elite. You know what I mean? Not the elite in AEW. I mean the elite.
No, of course, yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. Like, no, I've heard some crazy things that some people say, and I'm like, is this how I sounded?
Right, like beyond the ice wall, the flat Earth. Like, yeah, you hear some crazy stuff out
But
there.
I'll tell
Yeah.
you what, I can tell you who the real flat earthers are in wrestling through the gimmick I did, because there would be people, I'd go to shows and people come up to me and be like, hey, I believe that too. And they'd be like all quiet about it. Be like,
Yeah, they don't want other people to know.
yeah, we can talk later.
I saw a very famous wrestler. Somebody brought it up in an interview, and he said, "I don't not believe it," or something. He wouldn't say yes. He wouldn't say no. But he goes, "I don't not believe in flat Earth." So, but he's a famous wrestler, very famous guy. Maybe part of WrestleMania. Who knows? Who
Was
knows?
it
But
AJ Styles?
yes, of course, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was funny. They asked him, I don't know if he's on Twitch or whatever, and like, he goes, I don't not believe it. And they're like, do you believe it? He goes, well, I don't believe it. Or I don't not believe it. Like, he wouldn't give a straight answer. Yeah.
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 So there's this one bit, and we'll end on this. Sorry to keep you too long.
Yeah. No
It
problem.
just came to my mind. It's funny. To me, it's funny. I don't know if it's funny to other people, but I was on the Jericho cruise. I think, gosh, had to been almost 2 years ago now. And Moose was on the thing, and he's a flat earther. And so I was like, hey, Moose, can you help me do a bit? And he's like, yeah, of course. I was like, I need you to do the Titanic thing where you lift me over the front of the ship, put me down, and I'm just going to be like, I don't know, man. Looks pretty damn flat to me.
That's great. That's
So
great.
we did. Oh, no, it was great. And I ended up posting it. I thought about it for days, though. I was like, should I post this? Should I not post this? And I was like, this one's harmless. I was like, all right, I'm gonna post it. And it did very well, and a lot of people laughed, and like it didn't get any heat or anything. But then once I moved to Mexico, I just what's it called? Archived it. Just so that way it's not there. Because again, like the thing is, when you move to another country, you have to learn their culture and you have to adjust to their culture. You can't bring your mindset here and try to change them. You have to adjust to their culture. So that's what I've done. When I moved here, I didn't try to live the same way. I'm trying to learn and grow as a human being and adjust and learn this culture. And part of that is learning how to do social media down here, which is different than in the States.
Gotcha. Yep. Do you think that some of that stuff, the controversy, the conspiracy, do you think that could be a reason why Tony, who might be, maybe leaning one way, is like, oh, I don't like this politics stuff, or I don't like this stuff. Like, you think that could be a reason?
It definitely could be. I don't want to say it is or it isn't. I've heard many of my friends that work there theorize whether it's because I'm friends with certain people or because of the gimmick or who knows. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really bother me because I know who I am and I know who I've become. And I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago when I was doing that gimmick. And I've grown a lot since then. And so I'm just working on what I can in the present and not really focusing on what's in the past. Because I think my character and my work and who I am will outweigh anything that was done in the past or anything that was said or gimmick wise. So I'm just relying on that. If that is the reason, then I need to work extra hard to show that I'm not that person anymore, that I've grown as a character, grown as a person, grown as a wrestler, and that I won't be a liability for a company. Because, of course, if a company thinks that, oh, you can't do interviews because he's just going to say something wacky,
Right.
of course, they might be like, he's a liability. And I don't want to be a liability, and I need to prove that I'm not a liability.
Do you think that you're maybe better off in Mexico just for the family life? As far as right now, it seems like that might be the not permanent spot, but that's like a great spot for you right now as far as family life.
Honestly, I would love to retire here in Mexico.
Nice,
I would love to retire in CMLL. Does that mean I'm not going to go to another company in the meantime, like AEW, to wrestle there? And if I did, I could wrestle here at the same time, which would be amazing. But I do think if it wasn't for CMLL, I wouldn't be the performer I am now or the person I am now. It allowed me the opportunity to grow as a human, as well as living here in this beautiful country, because it's a lot different than the United States. And I can't remember who said it, but I remember reading something that said, when you move to another country, every year is like maturing 2 to 3 years.
Wow.
Because it's just so different.
Makes sense. Like you kind of, you almost have to, because you have to get used to where you're living after the culture shock. You kind of just got to grow and grow up. You're kind of forced into it.
Exactly. You're forced to learn a new language, new customs, new way of living. Like there was a lot of culture shocks here that, like, in the US, we drive with our windows down. Here, many people will tell you don't drive with your window down.
Why is that?
Because, and it's never happened to me, but because people will drive by and they can grab your cell phone, they can grab things out of your car, or they can stick a gun in the car.
Oh, okay.
And those are things we don't think about in the United States. We'll cruise with all of our windows down. But here they say don't roll it down more than a certain, like a few inches, because somebody can stick a gun inside your car.
Damn, gotta be careful. Shoot.
Yeah. My wife told me when we were first here, and I was in the passenger side, because she wouldn't let me drive yet, because the drive is different down here. I'd be in the passenger side on my phone. She'd be like, don't be on your phone with the window down. Somebody will grab it. I was like, really? Okay, let me roll the window up.
Wow, creepy. Damn.
Yeah. But to answer your question, I would love to wrestle inside the United States again. I would love to become a big international star in Mexico and in the United States, my home country. But if it never happens, I would be 100% content with finishing my career here in CMLL and wrestling here in Mexico, because I'm still wrestling on an elite level, no pun intended. I'm wrestling with some of the best luchadors in the world, some of them that have ever lived. And it's been such a learning experience, and something that I'll be able to pass down to my kids, the stories, to my grandkids, the stories. And that's something that nobody can ever take away from me.
Nice. Love it. I think that's a great ending for us, Flip. Thank you so much. Great stuff. Appreciate all
No,
the time.
thank you, John. I really appreciate you wanting to interview me.